everybody. Knocked you around. So, I spent last night taking apart our Poland 306A and cleaning it out. I just finished taking the recoil apart, cleaning all that out. Taking the old pull rope out, we're going to replace it. We cleaned it out completely. Even the muffler's been scrubbed out. There's some corrosion right here you can't really get rid of, but there's no more grease or anything. Coil's been scrubbed clean. I mean, obviously don't submerge it in water. But, you know, we're careful with carb cleaner, and I'll show you guys kind of, oh shit, they're in the sink, but I've got a few small, like, bottle brushes and a few handheld scrub brushes, things like this. Here you go. I use a lot of these when I'm cleaning them out, things like this. The crankcase has been cleaned out. Look at that. No more dirt in the crankcase. It is leaking oil, but that's okay. It's got some bar oil coming out from somewhere. But yeah, as you can see, and also too, check it out, man. That piston's in great shape. I don't know if y'all can see that. Piston is in good shape, and the saw's got compression. We checked that out yesterday. Yeah, it's nice and clean now. Get rid of all that dirt. Here's the top handle cleaned out. No more dirt here. One thing I haven't done yet that I need to do is, you can see that the fuel flue that goes through here from the carb, or from the tank to the carb, that flue is all clogged up. I've got a little needle thing I'm going to use to clean that out and then spray it with some carb cleaner. So it was all gunked up. Here's the clutch cover. And the fan cover. Nice and clean. Yeah, let me do that right now before I forget, because I don't want to go ahead and put it together and not do that. I have a very small pin that's made for that. It actually came with my paint gun to help clean out the tips of the sprayers. That's what I use this for too. Let's see what we can get out of here. I can feel the gunk. Oh, it's bad. Alright, take a little carb cleaner. Side. Because I don't want to spray it everywhere, because I am inside. Okay. I should be able to see right through that. It's looking pretty clean. Now, I don't have brushes small enough to get down inside of this, but I plan to get some. You definitely want to make sure that's clean, because you don't want to be sucking any of that crap into your carb, especially if you're about to rebuild it. You know, you want to ensure that everything is properly cleaned out, so you don't have to worry about any of that crap. Dump this in here. Just residual carb cleaner. Okay. So, yeah, I was actually surprised. There's no corrosion or anything inside of the tank. It looked like there was going to be, but the dirt is still caked on there. But this thing was pretty dirty. I know you guys saw it yesterday in the live stream, how rough it was. And, you know, you guys see typically with a lot of the videos I do where I take them apart, how dirty they can get on the underside. You know, you're talking years of just sawdust and oil caking it up. I've got to get my hardware. And, hey, what's up, Nick? How you doing, buddy? I'm glad you glad you found yourself a bar. I know that they are hard to come by. That is for sure. So I guess we can re-spool this, the pull rope. I took out the old one just because it was pretty rough shape. And it was super, super dirty. So, remember, this is the bottom side. Thread this through here. I've got quite a few little tricks I use to get this done, but one of my favorites is using collision nails. You just kind of snip them. We'll get a nice little knot in it first. Because sometimes the little hole that you thread it through is bigger. Sometimes it's super tight. They can be a pain. I've seen guys use glue. I've seen guys use nuts and bolts and things like that. You can do all of that. There's no wrong way, I suppose. But I like to make sure that the knot is flat so it can fit inside of the spool. And then we'll take the little excess off here. And where I put the nail, it will allow where it's like the more you pull it, the tighter the knot will get. Along with the nail kind of just fastening it in place. And I hit it with a little fire to help make the fibers stick together a little better. Right here. Don't do that too much, guys, because you'll weaken it. You just want to do it enough to where it's stuck together. You know, don't light it completely on fire and burn it, because then it will get weak. And that will ruin the whole thing. This may actually not even need a friggin' nail. Sometimes you don't need it. We'll see. Nice press. Yeah, there isn't much to replace in the recoils, guys. It's actually pretty simple. Once you've done one, you've done a bunch. I do hear a lot of people complain about the design on the 245s and 306As, the recoil design. I get it. You know, everything's behind the friggin' flywheel and all. It is kind of a pain to get in there, you know. I get that. But once you figure it out, it's not really too bad. So I'm going to flatten this a little bit more. That's a good sign that says our recoil is nice and fresh and it's not all gouged up in there. And if anybody ever wants to take this out, if I sell it, you know, or if I want to take it out, it won't take much. See, there you go. You better be the Incredible Hulk if you think you're going to get that out. Now the way I take out the old ones, of course, I snip the end off because sometimes the side here where it's locked in there, sometimes it'll have like a little piece of metal, like a finishing nail in there, and over time it'll just like sink into the metal, and you have to snip the end off and then stick a drill bit in there to kind of drill it out. I've done that a few times. What's up, y'all? Yeah, I will let you know, man. I will definitely let you know about the bar. There is one in the Poland group that's being sold by Charlie Hazlitt. It's a friend of mine. He owns a couple early models. He's selling a really good shape early style Poland bar that actually has, the original stenciling on it and all. It is 18 inches, but that bar that he has, it did not come stock on an early 245 or 306A. They're actually earlier than that. That's for the sand cast saws, like the gear driven saws that you see sometimes on marketplace and stuff. They're really old Poland saws from the 60s, but they do fit on the 245A, and that is a really good condition bar for what that is. And I mean, he's asking 150. That's not bad at all. I mean, I have a few new old stock bars that I've paid about that much for, so I would snag that. I personally, at this moment, do not have any extra. I actually just got one with this saw that I'm working on, but it's in really rough shape. Not sure exactly how it's going to turn out yet if I clean it. It's got a lot of surface rust. But if I can get that cleaned up and I think it's something I can use, I'll keep it. If not, I'll sell it. I understand, brother. Yeah, of course, man. I'll let you guys know. There's quite a few people that that have been asking, and I always help when I can. If I have the extra parts, I let them go. Because I always find more. But this guy here, I don't know what we're going to do with this quite yet. I mean, this is rough. We'll see. Like I said, I think first thing I'm going to do is we're going to make sure it runs. That's what I'm in the middle of doing now after cleaning it and all. We're going to put it back together, make sure it runs, and I may patch it up, cosmetically, do very minimal cosmetic work to it, or who knows, I may just keep rebuilding the whole thing and make sure it runs good and sell it as is. We'll see. I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place. Got a really busy weekend ahead too. I'm eager to see what the inside. Really quick. Eager to see what the inside of this carburetor looks like. But this is always something that I do to every saw that I get. Never underestimate the effectiveness of rebuilding your carburetor. Because 9 times out of 10, when you buy one of these saws unrestored, it needs it anyway. I'm not really worried about ruining the gaskets because I have a bunch of replacements. Just want to make sure that... Okay. The intake block off. You can kind of see, look, that fuel flue's all gunked up too. So I imagine that the screen in here is probably nice and clogged. Let's see. But I have a good feeling about this saw, man. I really do. I think it's just been sitting a lot of years. I think it runs. It's never really been maintained, and it's been sitting outside in somebody's garage or behind somebody's house for 20, 30 years maybe. I mean, I'm always impressed with how a lot of these carburetor gaskets are still pliable. That's crazy to me. Some of them are, and then you get ones like this where they're just like glued to the top. But the real thing is checking the diaphragm on the bottom. If that thing's hard, it's usually no good. Let's see, check that out. It's like peeling skin off. This one's got some play to it. We're gonna get rid of it. This thing's getting the works. Even if I've got to replace the whole top of the carburetor, I will. You know, just for the sake of making sure the gasket comes off. I'll worry about it later. I've got a lot of tops. I've got tons of carburetors. If anybody needs a rebuilt carb for their 245, let me know. Leo, I honestly don't know, man. I haven't really decided yet. I don't know. I've never, so I don't ever do full restorations on farm yellow saws. I never entirely repaint a farm yellow saw. It's just like, never going to do it. Just because it's so hard to find them in this color. I mean, obviously this one's really, really sun bleached. It's really faded. I mean, you can see the contrast. It's just the inside and then the outside. It's very sun faded. So I don't know, maybe. Now I've done touch-up work where, you know, there's farm yellow clutch covers that look like this, you know, and I've sprayed them to like patch up some of it to where it still looks natural without looking brand new again. I may do that to this. I don't know, but the thing is, if I do that to just the clutch cover or the fan cover, I'm gonna have to do it to the whole saw. So I don't know. I may actually fully restore it. I don't know though. And I also don't like to. I never once have ever thrown away one of these decals. If it's an original decal like this, I either very safely remove it and put it on another clutch cover, which it can be done. Even this one here, it's in one piece, even though it's rough. But if you heat up the back of the clutch cover, I've got these razor blades that I use where I can very gently scrape this off and keep it in one piece and then re-glue it on another clutch cover. I've done that quite a few times. So, I mean, I might do that to this because this is cracked and warped enough that I don't know that I'm ever going to get this to fit under the lip of the gas tank again. Sometimes it's like that, you know, and I'm afraid that if I can just feel it, you know. I've done this so many times where I can like feel if I can put some pressure on it and get it back under there. And this one feels like if I do, I'm going to lose this piece here. So, I don't know. We'll see. Like, there was an early 306A that sold on eBay. I think it was last year. And the entire thing was in pieces. Like, it was sold in pieces, like you see it on my table. It was missing a ton of shit. Anyway, the clutch cover had been welded at one point, and whoever did it, like, literally melted a giant hole from here to here, and it was awful. Like, if I would have just twisted the clutch cover, I'd have cracked it in half. But the majority of the decal was still intact. So I basically just heated up the back of the clutch cover, took this off, and put it on another farm yellow clutch cover. And I ended up putting it all together and completing it and selling it. That was that early 306A that I sold on Marketplace that was missing just like a quarter of its decal. but the rest of it was in good shape. Yeah. So I guess we'll move along here. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm actually surprised the screen is not so bad. I definitely was expecting worse. I was expecting a lot worse. I'm going to use this tool again to pull that screen out. Boom. Not going to reuse it. I've got so many carb kits for these saws. Look, guys. This entire bag is carburetor kits. The entire bag. We got 245 and 306A carb kits for daily use. But, you know, you don't always have to put a brand new carb kit in it. Sometimes, you know, the pieces and all are still in usable shape. All right, we're going to take out the only thing that I don't replace every time I do a carb rebuild is the little check valves in there. And the reason for that is, you know, most of the time they're pretty much suctioned in there, and it's very rare for those to have any kind of leak or something. So I rebuild it the way it is first and put it together the way that, you know, with what I have. And then after that, if it's still having problems, then I'll go ahead and pop the check valves out and replace those as well. But that's really a rare occurrence, along with crank seals. I know everybody always thinks the worst with their 245 or 306A, and they're like, oh, it needs crank seals, it's got a bad air leak. You know, not always. You know, sometimes it's just that some of your, you know, nuts and bolts inside the carburetor could just not be tight enough, and there's air escaping from the intake, or, you know, or your saw that's scored up and it's losing compression. Could be air escaping from the cylinder. You never know. But that's always worst case scenario with the carburetors. It needs check valve. I mean, that diaphragm's still bouncy, but I'm not going to reuse that. I'm just going to replace it. We're going to replace it. Sometimes, guys, these things turn into, like, literally the texture of a potato chip. And if that happens, then it absolutely has to be replaced. You see, this is still pliable completely. It's like paper. But we're going to put a new one in there. Sometimes you can reuse this gasket too. This one, if it's sealed on there, actually, I may just leave this on there before I rip it. That little piece that's ripped here, it'll seal up. And the diaphragm looks pretty good. It doesn't look like there's much dirt. But yeah, these here. Now, if these aren't properly sealed after I rebuild the carb and it doesn't hold a tune and stuff, then I'll pop them out and go from there. But there's your governor. Looks pretty clean in there. I was actually expecting it to be a little worse, to be honest with you. Let's take the hinge out and the needle. I've done this a lot on live streams and videos, so you guys, if you haven't seen this before. The needle don't look too bad. Still got the little rubber tip on it, but we're going to replace that too. Spring feels good. Yep. Now we're just going to spray the hell out of it. $5 a can, Dollar General. I'm reaching my head around to see the camera. Can you find OEM pistons and cylinders for these saws anymore? Yeah, of course. Yeah. So eBay seems to be the best spot. There's a few sellers on eBay that sell a lot of them. You know, they just They sell the crankcases. I mean, those people scroll past those a lot on eBay because everybody's looking for a complete saw. But I buy a lot of crankcases like that too, because some people they'll have a saw that maybe it doesn't have spark, or it just needs a carb rebuild or something like that, and they'll take the entire saw apart down to the crankcase and just sell it part by part on eBay. Um, that's really a good way to get yourself a decent piston, cylinder, stuff like that on eBay for a good price. It's crazy. Like I've bought a crankcase like this. I bought a crankcase just like this, minus like the clutch, and the whole crankcase is for $45, and the piston and cylinder are in great shape. And then the same seller will have another one where they take the piston off and the cylinder off, and they sell the cylinder for $100. So I mean, that's a good way to get. That's a good way to get good parts for it. Let's spray this under here. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, you can. They're out there. I know. I've gotten quite a few parts from eBay. Um, a lot of the guys in the Poland group have helped me. I've gotten tons of parts from there, like chainsaw. It's just chainsaw with an R on the end. It's weird, but they used to have a ton of 245 and 306A parts, and they used to list them all the time. I bought a lot of stuff. Bought a bunch of 245 handlebars and top couplers, things like that. Um, it's like after they ran out of stock, they just stopped listing stuff. Or if they do, it doesn't last long and it sells pretty damn fast. They used to have a ton of OEM parts, and for really cheap too, which was good. So there we go. Spray out every bit of that carb, every nook, every cranny, little holes all over this thing. You gotta clear out. So now what we're left is basically a hollowed out carb body. Get ourselves a new kit. Okay, here we go. I guess we'll start with the top. Here's our diaphragm pieces. We'll move that. I mean, you see, like, this is a brand new diaphragm, and you kind of saw how, this still has some give to it. I mean, you can hear the dryness of it, though, and you can see where it's been stretched out pretty well. Let me hear this. Obviously a lot fresher, quieter. Sometimes they get completely solid. Here's the new inlet screen, fresh, brand new. Pop that down inside of here. It's pre-cut to fit, so you don't have to do that. Take our same tool, make sure it's clean, and very gently press it down inside. Just press along the edges. Don't poke a hole in it. Now, take our thin gasket, lay that on top. Then we take our thick gasket, the same way. Now, I did say I was going to replace the top of the carburetor, didn't I? Because this gasket's stuck on the top of this carb here. I mean, if I ever run out and I need to use this, I will. But I'm just going to grab another top. It's clean. Give me a second. see how this one looks. Pop the top off of this one. But yeah, I expect to get this thing going maybe this afternoon. This is going to really be the only time I have to work on this weekend, more than likely. Just because I've got a lot going on. Oh, this one's caked up too. Hang on, got another. Like I said, I've got too many. Too many. An entire bag just full of carburetors. And I've done this quite a few times, and that's probably why I'm grabbing ones that are like that. Because I'm too lazy to go ahead and scrape all that off. I usually have to soak it. Oh, there you go. Here's one that's in good shape. That's what we'll use. And let me put those screws back because I don't need more. It's this extra one. Got our 4 here. Okay. Put that in the rest of this here. Yeah. Just seriously an entire bag of fucking cards. I've got a problem, y'all. I've got an addiction here. It's all Gunnar Hansen's fault, man. Fucking traumatized me as a kid. This is how I cope with my trauma. I'm just kidding. Yeah, the greatest horror film of all time. Come on. Okay. Line that up good. Actually, let's just give this a quick little spray. It just came out of the bag. And we'll lay this on top. I don't know. Sometimes when I'm doing this on live stream, I'm kind of envisioning, like, I know this is stupid, but I'm envisioning, like, people watching it at home, you know, and doing it to their own 245 or 306A. You know, maybe you do after the stream's over, I don't know. But I hope that my videos help people. I really do. I know if you're not into TCM and you're not into these saws here, this is the most boring shit on YouTube. This is the most boring shit on YouTube. But I'll tell you right now, like, if somebody had a channel like this, if somebody was doing this stuff on YouTube for me to see before I started doing this, I mean, that's all I'd watch. Because I love these things. You know, but I seriously do. I hope that this has helped some people get their saw where they want it to be, and, you know, because I know that what's crazy is the majority of people who have 306As and 245s aren't mechanics, you know, and they really only want it because of the movie. And instead of taking it to some small engine shop and getting robbed, you know, I hope that I'm showing you can fix it yourself, you know. I'm not a mechanic. I just got so sick and tired of finding saws that didn't run, and figured, well, you know what? If I want them to run, I'll have to do it myself. I'll figure it out. And also, too, it's like, well, if I can't find a really good early model, I'm going to make one out of the saw I have. Videos help more than you think it does. Trust us, and dude, thank you so much, Nick. You're an awesome guy, man, and I appreciate your kind words. I really do. And I'll tell you what, man, that restoration that I sold you, That honestly was one of my favorite restos I'd ever done, and I've done over 100 of them. That's definitely top five. I don't know what it is, man. I mean, they all almost start to look identical after a while, but I mean, a lot of them have their own little personalities and distinct things about them. Like some of them, the handlebar may be bent back a touch, or the muffler is a little this or that or something. Or maybe there's more overspray on the cylinder fins on one than another. Shit like that. But yours turned out really, really good, and I'm glad that you got it, along with that bar too. It's gonna look really good. Once you get that bar on there, it's gonna look really good. And I'm sorry I didn't sell it with one. If I had a bar at the time, it would have 1,000%. It would have gotten the right bar and chain if I had one at the time. Okay, so we are going to reuse this part of the diaphragm gasket. I'm going to leave it alone. It's in one piece. It's still soft, and it's sealed on there. We'll just make sure it's super tight. The one thing I will say about a lot of these carb kits is sometimes the spring that they come with isn't as good as the original. Sometimes it's better to just use the original spring. You can see a difference in diameter too. Maybe you can on camera. See, the original spring here is just a little bit bigger than the replacement. So, but technically this spring is designed for this, so if you want, maybe use this one. I don't know what I want to do here. I don't know if I want to use the original spring or not. And sometimes the little nip on the end of the diaphragm is different shape too on the originals. See, this one's more flat on the original, and this one's kind of more domed. So, I don't know. I guess screw it, I'll just replace the spring. And if it doesn't move right, I'll just pull it out. Yeah, and the cylinder on the saw that I sold you was actually from a 245 SA. It was the only one I had at the time. So that was one of the first saws that I actually plugged the cylinder. I plugged up the compression release hole with the pin, and I mean, that saw's got hella compression, and it runs really good. I don't know if I don't know if you started it up yet or not. I mean, I know a lot of people don't. When I sell them saws, they just like to keep them clean, and that's totally fine. Sometimes it's good enough for them knowing that it will run. But if you ever do decide to run it, man, she's a good runner. And since then, when I've done that, when I've used a 245 SA cylinder and plugged it, those saws, for whatever reason, tend to feel like they have a little more compression than just a regular old piston and cylinder for a 245. I don't know if they design the cylinders a little differently because of the compression release they have to add. I don't know, but when I plug them up, them suckers are really tight. Alright, there we go. Dude, I've had people, they get a 245 SA, and they hate that the 245 SA has that little bracket right here that hangs over the muffler, the little triangle piece. So they go ahead and take that apart, and then they're like, well, now my saw won't run and it has no compression. It's like, duh, you just basically put a hole in your cylinder, man. There's a way to do that. You got to plug it up. You can't just leave it that way. I've bought saws where people have monkeyed around with that and kind of left it and then I'll just plug it. And the way to do it is with JB Weld, believe it or not. I mean, JB Weld is advertised as being able to hold up to 2,000 psi. I mean, I don't really think that anybody has. I don't know. Maybe JB Weld has tested to see how much compression it can hold, but it says that it can hold up to 2,000 psi. So why couldn't it? Why couldn't it hold a cylinder plugged in a chainsaw, a little two-stroke engine, a little 74cc saw? Should definitely be able to do that, and it works. Every time I've done so far, it's worked. As long as the piston is in good shape and the cylinder's in good shape, it works. Alright, well, I'm just checking to see if we want to make sure the needle is, the levering arm here is level with the bottom of the carburetor, or that needle will get stuck, and then your saw will flood. See what I'm saying? Like, this works, but I just feel like it's a lot more loosey-goosey than the original spring. Like, it's a little smaller. You know what, guys? I'm sorry to waste time, but I'm going to take this out and put the original spring in there. I don't like that. The replacements are just a tiny bit too small. I wish whoever made these knew that and changed it, but I don't know what the hell it takes for them to make a brand new spring for this. I have no idea, but I'm going to take this out, and we're going to put the original one back in. See, it's much bigger. Not that much bigger, but it's bigger enough that I notice a difference. Alright. Let's get the screw back in. Get started. Right now we're going to make sure that hinge is down in there. Make sure the needle's flush and the levering arm is flush. Just tighten it up. You gotta press this down in there. You want to make sure that sucker is flush. Now look, see, it's raising that thing up a lot easier and a little higher. So we like that. Okay. Now, since we're not replacing this, we'll save that. We're not replacing the valves, so we'll save that. Just put this diaphragm on. Make sure it catches the little fork. I like that. Good. Bottom of the card back on. Also, guys, if you book a restoration with me, this is what happens to your saw. Same thing you see here. First thing I do is test it for compression. I do a piston and cylinder check on it. Then I test it for spark. We address those issues, if there is any, and then saying there isn't, I take the saw completely apart, regardless, scrub it out completely clean. Every nook and cranny of the entire crankcase is cleaned out. All the parts, even the hardware, which I actually have to go grab the hardware for this saw because it's still soaking in parts cleaner since last night. And then depending on what we do, we put the saw back together, make sure it runs, and then if it runs, we take it back apart again, and then we prep it for paint. I mean, there's definitely a lot of work. I mean, I think that some people assume when they get their saws restored by me, then I'm basically just wiping them down with a rag and then just spraying them. Like, no, absolutely not. There's a whole lot more to it. I promise you that. A whole lot more. I do work pretty quick, and turnaround time, if I have the time, just saying that I have all the parts it needs. Let's say that, I have every single part it needs, and it needs a rebuild and a repaint. If I have everything and I don't have to order anything from paint, parts, whatever, I can get this all done in about 2 days, 2 to 3 days total. And that's if I have the entire day, all 3 days to work on it. It takes me about 3 days to get it all done. Now you see that I'm turning both the high and low jet on. Don't do that really, really tightly. I'm just doing it to where they're both seated, and now we're going to put it back to factory settings. So that's one full turn on the high jet and a full turn on the low and a half. Then I'll do it again to show you guys. Kind of just watch the edge of your screwdriver so you can see. I'm trying to do it where you can see what I'm doing. One full turn. One full turn and a half on the low, and then you go from there. I think it's like a quarter turn for each in the manual, but I don't know. That's like really, you can give these things a little more credit than that, and you can open them just a touch more. I do a full turn on the high jet and a full turn and a half on the low, and that's factory settings. She's ready to be put back in and see what happens. Now we can put this back together. The gasket is still there, so it should be nice and tight. So let's do that really quick. Me and my girlfriend are supposed to be going to look at a house today. She's still sleeping though. I don't want to bother her. She works late. She's a musician downtown, and she doesn't get home till like 2:30 in the morning sometimes. Playing at the bar until it closes. I did that too for a long time, but now I only play music part-time. And I got a regular day job now. Her and I used to do it together, but life seems to be a lot easier having a grown-up job, but it comes at a cost. Alright, we want to make sure that's super tight because we want to ensure that it's airtight. But there you go, look, we got a completely rebuilt carburetor that's been cleaned out. You guys seen it for yourself? This intake gasket's in one piece too, so I guess I'll just leave that there, and so is the reed valve gasket. So we'll leave that the way it is. Now, any extra card parts, I put them inside of the case like this. I close it, and then to do this, so I don't forget, I marked used, so that way I know. And then I put it in my box. See, used. Sometimes I put a date, so that way I know. Now this one is usable, it says half used, and I'll be able to know if I ever want to use this card. This entire kit right here is totally good. I mean, I think it looks like the diaphragm is used, and maybe the hinge and needle, but the rest of it's brand new. You can see it. So yeah, we do that, and we separate it from our bag of new ones. Only if I don't use the entire thing. If I use the entire thing, then I just throw away the box. But okay, now let's clean this up a little bit and move on. We'll decide what's next. Well, I guess technically I need to get that damn. I need to get the my hardware. So I'll take y'all with me so I can kind of show you what it is I do. You know, welcome to my home. There's all my saws on the table. It's just a row of them. Okay. So this is basically what I do with them. They're soaking in warm soapy water and carburetor cleaner. And as you can see, that water turns just gunky dirty overnight. And then I give it a good shake. And this is sealed up, airtight. It's not going to leak. This basically knocks off any dirt out of the threads, any excess paint, things like that come off. And then we go from there. Now, I did have, here it is. I use this little strainer so I can basically spray or pour the hardware into it without losing anything, because you got to remember I do have like the moon key and stuff in there. But yeah, if you book a restoration with me, this is what's going to happen to your saw. And then sometimes I get bored and smash them with sledgehammers. No, I'm just kidding. This is only there to catch hardware if it comes out like this did. Okay. Then set this back in. Give it a good rinse. Here's some of the, from where I was scrubbing them out last night. I use a lot of these, and I use, this is one of my favorite tools. I use these little brushes, and I do it all right in my sink, man. I clean it all out until I have a shop and a big shop sink, or you know, big parts cleaner. Rinse them out. Sometimes you can just do like this and just let the water, none of them parts are going to come out. You can just let that run. No hardware is going to bubble over. Everything in there is heavy enough to just stay sitting at the bottom. And yes, the moon key is in there, and I'm not scared to lose it. It's not going to come out. I just let that go. Looks like the water's nice and clean. It's crystal clear. All that hardware is nice and clean. Just dump some of it out. And then do this again. And this just gets any excess soap and carb cleaner out. There you have it. Clean hardware. That's what we want. And we take this back over to our little workstation here. Oh, I gotta put you guys back on the stand. I need both my hands. It's been almost an hour. I don't foresee me going that much further. But give me just a second, guys. I'll be right back. Maybe quiet. Hang on. I'm still here, y'all. I guess I don't have any more. Okay. So yeah, I am going to be wrapping this up here soon, in just a minute. Okay. Really quick. We've got the points cleaned. That's the first thing we're going to have to put back on. Toggle switch and all has been scrubbed. All this is clean. So let's tilt the saw up on its side. Rest the points here. Gotta find the hardware for it buried in here with all this stuff. All that's nice and clean now, so it's a good thing. I want to make sure that this is set just the way we need it to be. It's got to be making some contact with the crankshaft. And because I don't have a spark tester, I mean, I guess even if I did, I would, if I didn't set the points right, I would still have to take it all off again if I didn't adjust the coil properly. But this thing had spark, man. When I tested it last night, it had spark. So happy about that. Oh, this guy needs a washer. That's right. Shit. There's a tiny, tiny washer in here somewhere for that. Here, it's not in there. Here's our moon key. Now that that's clean, I'm gonna set it on the flywheel so I don't lose it. I had my old lady and both of my kids looking for that moon key the last live stream we did, and it finally got found. You do need that tiny washer for the bottom screw on your points, because that little hole there is bigger than the other ones are, so you want that to be held down nice and proper. Hopefully I find the damn thing. If not, a lock washer will work, but we don't really want to use that. We don't have to. Shit, it could be on one of the screws. I'm looking. Come on, man, we're at the home stretch here. Alright, well, I'm not going to spend too much more time doing that, so let's just go for it. Again, make sure there's contact. Make sure it's nice and tight. Okay. Now we've got our clean points gasket here. I've got extras of these too, but this one's in good shape. It works, so put that over the points. Just like that. Now we take our spool. This is always a good time to do this because it's a lot harder to do once you put everything back together, trust me. Thread this through now. Make sure you got enough to where it's not going to fall out on you. And then once it's there, it's there. You don't have to worry about it again. It's done. All right. So let's let me put the recoil housing over the top here. This one actually didn't have the little felt gaskets in it. I don't know why, but it didn't. Which is weird. But it's okay. I mean, and it didn't look like somebody was in it already once, so it could have just been that way. You know, the people at the Poland factory definitely have made lots and lots of mistakes when putting them together, and I have seen them all. A lot of them, I'll say. But I think because the stream is gone for quite some time now, I think I'll put the recoil back on, and then I'll probably just end the stream here, and you know, I'll pick up again when I get the saw completely put back together and new fuel lines and all that. But you guys seen the majority of the work, and then I'll probably stream again during that. So thank you guys for hanging out with me, and thanks for watching this. I know you have to love this stuff to sit through this. Like I said, you know, this is the most boring content ever, like ever. If you don't love TCM, this will bore your brains out. So, but there it is. We got the recoil back on, and I'll pick up on the next one. So thank you all for your kind words, and thanks for hanging out with me. I love y'all. See you on the next one.